Claiming the top spot as the strongest domain expansion in Jujutsu Kaisen is Malevolent Shrine, wielded by none other than Sukuna, the king of curses. Unlike traditional domains that seal opponents inside, Malevolent Shrine forgoes a barrier altogether. Instead, Sukuna floods an area up to 200 meters with his guaranteed slashes, leaving no room for escape. His two techniques, Cleave, which adjusts to the cursed energy of living targets, and Dismantle, which cuts through objects, work in brutal harmony to reduce everything to dust. What makes this domain even deadlier is Sukuna's control. He can shrink the radius mid-battle to boost its lethality, adapting to the situation effortlessly. During the Shibuya incident, Malevolent Shrine obliterated city blocks and took hundreds of lives in mere moments. Power on a scale no other domain matches. Where Sukuna's domain overwhelms through destruction, the next domain takes a quieter, more insidious route. Taking second place is Unlimited Void, the domain expansion of Satoru Gojo, the strongest Jujutsu sorcerer. While Sukuna's Malevolent Shrine dominates through sheer destruction, Gojo's Unlimited Void wins through complete sensory overload. The moment you're caught inside, your mind is flooded with endless information, so much that your body simply shuts down. You're frozen in place, unable to act, as if time itself has stopped for you. What makes this domain terrifying is Gojo's precision. He can activate it for a mere 0.2 seconds, as seen during the Shibuya incident, and still incapacitate an entire group without causing permanent harm. His control is so advanced that he can shrink his domain to the size of a basketball or reinforce its outer shell for defense. Unlimited Void isn't about destroying the world around you, it's about making sure you can't lift a finger. But what if a domain made survival a matter of pure luck? If you're enjoying the breakdown so far, hit that like button and let us know in the comments, which domain would you trust your life to? Now let's move on. In third place, we have Idle Death Gamble, the chaotic and unpredictable domain of Kinji Hakari. Unlike other domains that rely on guaranteed hits or overwhelming environments, Hakari's domain turns the battlefield into a giant pachinko machine. The goal: to hit the jackpot, be lining up 3 matching symbols themed after the Private Pure Love Train manga. When he wins, Hakari becomes virtually unkillable for 4 minutes and 11 seconds, with unlimited cursed energy and automatic reverse curse technique. His regeneration is so fast, it surpasses even Gojo's, healing mortal wounds instantly. What fans might not realize is that the game's rules and odds, a 1 in 239 chances, are embedded into his opponent's mind the moment the domain activates. But here's the real danger: Hakari's uncanny ability to hit jackpots far more often than statistics would suggest, making every round a gamble his enemies can't afford. And while Hakari's domain is all about chance, the next domain is about judgment, and the law is absolute. At number 4 is Deadly Sentencing, the domain expansion of Hiromi Higuruma, a courtroom brought to life in the middle of battle. Unlike domains that rely on brute force, this one traps its target in a legal trial where violence is forbidden. Inside the domain, Higuruma becomes prosecutor, the target becomes defendant, and Judge Man presides over the verdict. Here's what makes this domain terrifying. Judge Man already knows every fact about the target, but the outcome depends entirely on the arguments made during the trial. If you're found guilty, you could lose your cursed technique, or worse, be handed a death sentence, granting Higuruma the executioner's sword that kills with a single touch. What's especially unnerving, even Higuruma doesn't control which punishment is given. The domain enforces true neutrality, making justice itself your enemy. But while Deadly Sentencing forces order, the next domain is pure chaos, with gravity itself turned into a weapon. Number 5 on our list is Womb Profusion, the grotesque and overwhelming domain of Kenjaku. Like Sukuna's Malevolent Shrine, Womb Profusion is barrierless. No sealed space, just pure devastation unleashed across the open battlefield. The domain manifests as a towering totem of fused, tormented faces, radiating an invisible but crushing force of gravity. What makes Womb Profusion especially dangerous is its precision. When Kenjaku unleashed it against Yuki Tsukumo, one of the most powerful sorcerers alive, the domain's sure-hit gravity waves left her critically wounded in moments. And because the domain has no defined outer shell, even Tengen, the master of barriers, struggled to dismantle it. Fans might overlook how this domain reflects Kenjaku's cold, calculating style, overwhelming, unrelenting, and impossible to counter in a conventional sense. Where Kenjaku uses gravity to crush his enemies, the next domain brings danger from the sea, with attacks you won't see coming until it's too late. At number 6 is Horizon of the Captivating Skanda, the domain expansion of the disaster-cursed Dagon. On the surface, it looks serene. dream, a tropical beach with palm trees and endless ocean. But this illusion hides a deadly truth. Within this domain, aquatic Shikigami materialize at the exact point of impact, instantly biting into their target's flesh. The sure hit effect means the fish don't exist until they strike, making them nearly impossible to block or dodge. What many fans miss is that Dagon originally used this domain as a safe haven in his cursed womb form, a tranquil retreat before he unleashed it in battle. When he did, even seasoned fighters like Nanami and Maki were overwhelmed by the relentless assault of Shikigami. From an endless ocean of hidden predators, we move to a domain that will burn most sorcerers alive. At number 7 is Coffin of the Iron Mountain, the domain expansion of Jogo, the disaster curse of volcanoes. This domain creates a sealed volcanic chamber where molten rock oozes from fissures, and the heat alone is enough to incinerate most sorcerers instantly. Jogo commands this environment to deliver unavoidable molten strikes, an instant death sentence for nearly anyone caught inside. What makes this domain terrifying is its sheer lethality. It's not subtle, it's not strategic, it's overwhelming destruction in its purest form. But Jogo's biggest misfortune was using it against Gojo. Despite the domain's killing power, Gojo's limitless technique nullified it completely, making Coffin of the Iron Mountain seem weaker than it truly is. Against any other target, it would have been a one-sided massacre. Where Jogo's domain burns everything, we move to a domain where the battlefield is littered with blaze, each one holding a stolen power. Coming in at number 8 is Authentic Mutual Love, the domain expansion of Yuta Okatsu. When this domain unfolds, the landscape becomes a wreckage of cross-shaped structures and countless katanas scattered across the ground. Each katana houses one of Yuta's stolen curse techniques, but here's the catch: even Yuta doesn't know which sword contains which power until he draws it. The domain's barrier itself holds a guaranteed hit effect from one selected technique, forcing enemies to stay on edge at all times. A fascinating detail: there's no limit to the number of katanas scattered in the domain, and though each sword shatters after a single use, Yuta can keep grabbing new ones endlessly. Against Sukuna, this domain forced him into a defensive stance, burning his resources and attention. Where Yuta's domain creates a field of hidden traps, the next domain brings terror by reshaping your soul, without ever laying a hand on you. Number 9 goes to Self-Embodiment of Perfection, Mahito's terrifying domain expansion. The moment it activates, Mahito no longer needs physical contact to twist and transfigure soul. His cursed technique applies automatically to anyone inside, turning the domain into a death trap. The space itself takes the form of giant hands clasped together like a flower, with countless arms interwoven around the target, as if the soul is being slowly crushed from all sides. And what's often overlooked is how this domain automatically links to the souls of everyone inside. It's this very link that triggered Sukuna's retaliation when Yuji broke in, shattering Mahito's domain instantly. It's a power that forces connections you don't want, with consequences no one can predict. Some domains attack what's within, others, like the next, attack at a level so precise that even the smallest movement can cost you everything. At number 10 is Time Cell Moon Palace, the eerie and precise domain expansion of Naoya Zenin in his vengeful spirit form. When activated, the domain casts a dark, empty space with a single fleshy path leading to a massive eye. Its sure hit function injects animated film strips into the necks of its targets, forcing them to obey a brutal rule: move in sync with 24 frames per second or suffer countless microscopic cuts that slice at the very level of their cells. What's chilling is that these injuries don't always appear immediately. Victims often think they've escaped harm, only to find themselves suddenly immobilized or missing entire limbs. Even expert fighters like Daido and Mio couldn't escape its precision. While Naoya's domain punishes movement with surgical precision, the next domain brings shadows to life, turning the entire battlefield into a trap waiting to pull its prey under. At number 11 is Chimera Shadow Garden, the incomplete yet fearsome domain expansion of Megumi Fushiguro. When activated, it floods the area with a thick fluid shadow that coats everything in sight. Inside this domain, Megumi gains enhanced control over his 10 Shadows technique, allowing him to summon multiple Shikigami, create clones of himself, and manipulate the shadows with deadly precision. The domain itself has no proper barrier. Instead, the shadows serve as both trap and terrain, with anyone caught inside at risk of sinking into an abyss where there's no oxygen, resistance, or escape. And what's often missed is how Megumi's incomplete domain forced a massive power boost during the culling game, pushing his technique's potential to 120%. And despite its flaws, Chimera Shadow Garden has repeatedly turned the tide in battles, where Megumi seemed outmatched. Where shadows create endless traps, the next domain barrier buries its targets literally, with no chance to escape the grave. At number 12 is the ominous Graveyard Domain, the domain expansion of the smallpox deity. The environment it creates is as unsettling as its name suggests. A desolate graveyard deep within a forest. The domain's sure hit ability traps targets inside a coffin almost instantly. Then the smallpox deity lowers its left fist into its right hand, summoning a massive gravestone that crashes down onto the coffin, crushing and burying it underground. A chilling countdown begins. If it reaches one, the victim is infected with smallpox and dies. What many don't notice is the ritualistic motion of the curse. The lowering of its fist before delivering its final blow mirrors ancient funerary practices, adding a disturbing layer of symbolism. Though brutal, this domain can be broken through, as seen when Mei Mei and her brother combine their efforts to escape. At number 13 is Threefold Affliction, the domain expansion of the ancient sorcerer Yorozu. When expanded, the domain forms a blank, eerie space dotted with floating organic structures that resemble insect brains and nerve core, a disturbing reflection of Yorozu's fractured mind. The domain's sure hit effect doesn't attack directly. Instead, it guarantees that the powerful weapons Yorozu constructs, like the infamous True Sphere, will strike their target without fail. What's fascinating is how this domain's purpose was singular. Yorozu built it around her ultimate creation, the True Sphere, hoping to finish Sukuna in one blow, but she hesitated at the crucial moment, giving Sukuna the chance to counter and shatter the sphere. The domain collapsed before it could fulfill its terrifying potential. While Threefold Affliction was designed for a single perfect strike, the next domain takes a more mysterious form, one where even the setting may be an illusion hiding something deeper. Finally, at number 14 is Yuji Itadori's newly revealed domain expansion, a technique so fresh that even its name remains unknown. When activated, the domain seems to transport the target to an empty, dimly lit train station, a space that feels suspended between destinations, just like Yuji's own struggle between identity and duty. What's striking is that within this domain, Yuji appears free of injury, though it's still unclear whether that's true healing or simply an illusion created by the domain's effect on the target's mind. The domain's guaranteed hit condition allows Yuji to precisely direct his awakened dismantle technique at the boundary between Sukuna's and Megumi's soul, an attempt to tear the King of Curses from Megumi's body. While we've only seen the beginning of what this domain can do, it already hints at power driven by resolve as much as strength. That's our list. Every domain expansion ranked from strongest to weakest. Which domain would you want at your side? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of Jujutsu Kaisen.